They just need a friend. Some of the most amazing mentors I've ever met are the most timid people that were very nervous, but then they just break down those walls and they realize this is just doing life together. I think this is the most important thing we can do. And so we're all very, very passionate that we're going to continue growing and continue serving the schools that we're in with excellence and loving people. That's the bottom line.
Hello and welcome to The Clear Voice, brought to you by Clear Career Professionals. I'm your host, James Groom. Strong communities are built one life at a time, and at the very center of every strong community are its kids. Today we are talking about how mentoring strengthens communities through measurable, life-changing impact. This episode is about leadership, but not in a corner office. It is about leadership one relationship at a time. Joining us today is Dena Petty. She's the founder and director of Mentors Care, which was founded in Midlothian, Texas in 2009. Mentors Care connects students with consistent, caring adult mentors and has grown into a structured program serving schools and communities with measurable impact. Dena is also the author of Collateral, a personal journey from darkness to faith, which shares the personal story behind the mission. I first met Dena while I was volunteering as a mentor myself. She came out to one of our training sessions, and what stood out to me immediately was not the structure of the program, but her passion for the mission. You can tell very quickly when someone is doing work because it is strategic and when someone is doing it because it's personal. Dena, welcome to The Clear Voice. We are honored to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, James. I'm really happy to be here. I'm honored, actually.
Dena, they say never judge a book by the title, but Collateral, a personal journey from darkness to faith tells us your mission did not start in a boardroom. It started somewhere much deeper. If you could take us back, what in your life led you to found Mentors Care?
I would have given anything to have had something like Mentors Care, a mentor in my life. I was completely lost. I actually had a really rough childhood. A lot of people do. Everybody's got a story. But I just hope that my story can inspire people that you can overcome anything. And I had some people come alongside later in those teenage years and early adult that really helped shape me and impacted me so much. So it's just kind of a perfect thing how it all converged and Mentors Care was birthed. I had a father who was in illegal things. Some people say mafia. There's some connections there. Can't prove that. My mom was emotionally not well. She was in a cult religion. So I had my dad in illegal things, gone every night, gambling, abusive, not a nice person. And then my mom was a person who emotionally never attached to me. She never told me she loved me. She never was interested in anything I was ever doing. There was a lot of guilt involved growing up, so there was no freedom to grow. So I was very lonely, didn't have hardly any friends at all, and I was more in the cult religion side. I was disconnected from school. I was the kid in school that barely showed up to class. I didn't have anybody waking me up to go to class, to go to school. No one was checking a report card. No one really cared about that. They were all trying to deal with their own messes. And that's true for a lot of our kids. You know, on the outside, it might look like everything's okay, but on the inside, things aren't well. And you can see markers, you can see things that are going on with the child and that they're not showing up for school. They're not engaging. Maybe they're not even really in trouble. They're just kind of there and really no one's asking. But then some kids, a lot of our students, they are acting out in risky behaviors. They're acting out in ways that are very disrespectful, or they're disrespectful to their own bodies, their own self. We have to be intentional to find out what's going on with the kid. So my story is that parents divorced. That was a shock, that it didn't work. And so when I was 16, my mom really lost her mind. And in the book, I share how there was a moment when I realized I was going to have to get out of there to survive. It was already dysfunctional, unloving. No one really cared. And then I came home from school one day. Mom wasn't there when she was normally always there. She wasn't there that day when I came home from school. I see my little brother walking down the driveway. He's getting off the bus. And I see a note on the counter. And the note said, Satan had won, that she was going to have to kill herself, but first kill her children. That's when I made up my mind. I got to get out of here. We can't do this anymore. My dad was off doing his thing in love with another woman, and he was gone and not really engaged. So when I was 18, wound up living in my car for a summer. I was hanging wallpaper and I had met my future husband. And I said, "So you go to college?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I thought, I think I want to go to college. I had no background, nothing to prepare me for college at all. I took all the easiest courses you can get. I don't know how I graduated. I just went enough days that they said, "Here's your diploma," honestly. I saved up my money. Back then, I can't remember the amount, but I want to say it was between $500 and $600 a quarter to go to Louisiana Tech. And I had saved up my money and I went up there and I said, "I want to go to school here." And they said, "Do you have an SAT score or ACT?" And I said, "I don't even know what that is." They took my money and they said, "Let's just go ahead and get you enrolled. You can start. We can do that test later. And if you pass it, you can just, keep going or whatever." I must have passed because they kept letting me stay. I mean, I moved into my dorm room and everything I owned was in a milk crate and a pillowcase and just threw everything on a bed. And it was interesting because I talk about this in the book. I had two roommates and I didn't know them, but they were best friends. They were nice. Their parents were helping them decorate their side of the room and all the things and crying when they left. I threw my milk crate under my bed and put my blanket and my pillow on top of my bed and I was in. But I wasn't sad. I was actually just so excited to start my life, just to get away from the crazy. And it was okay. I was happy for people that they were happy. Actually, it was good. I saw an example of parents who truly loved their children and were excited to help them get moved in and everything. So I had a lot of life lessons throughout that time. Obviously not prepared for college, so I was not successful. It wasn't good. In fact, I made it 2 years till I was on probation. By that time, Todd and I were really seriously thinking about making a life together. And so he had asked me to marry him and we got married. And so I never finished college. In fact, I had a professor tell me I just needed to marry somebody rich and forget about it. That's the encouragement I got. I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm in the wrong place." Moved to Georgia. It's where our son was born. I'm working, just trying to figure out life. But that's when women started coming into my life. They were very kind to me, older women that would tell me I was funny or pretty or smart or whatever. I had never really heard those things before. And they were kind to me. And they helped me with my marriage, all the questions you have about when you get married and kids and all those things. So my mother, when I left the religion, never spoke to me again. She disowned me and she said not to call anymore. I lost a relationship with my brothers. And then my father, we were talking, but it wasn't a healthy, loving relationship with a father, but it was a connection. So anyway, I was just trying to do life on my own and it was very hard. But thank goodness I did have some very sweet ladies that were kind to me. And then we had moved to Arkansas. We had our second daughter and then moved to Arkansas and a church asked me to be a youth pastor, which is really funny because I had never even been to a youth group before. I had done some volunteer work with the kids and I guess they thought I was good with kids and love the Lord and willing to learn. I started with 10 kids and by the time that I had just really kind of the Lord letting me know that it was time to stop, that I was done. And there was over 100 kids coming on Wednesday, and it was hard. It was a lot. Then we moved to Texas. It's interesting because 6 months after I decided that, it was time to stop, really felt God's prodding. Then we moved to Texas and got busy with my son's recruiting. And that's where my son Bryce got recruited by Baylor, several schools, but he wound up going to Baylor, very successful, and then went on to the NFL. Then I was helping my daughter with her volleyball and her school and everything. When my son was leaving for college, my daughter was still in ninth grade, but when he was a senior graduating, that's when the school, Midlothian High School, asked me if I would start a mentoring program. And I went, that's what I need to be doing. That's exactly what I need to be doing. Because when I was a youth pastor, I always had a heart for the kids who were your at-risk kids. The ones that were tearing up the church, that's the ones I love. Those are the ones I wanted. Had a real calling for them. They just needed somebody to love them. I started the mentoring program. I wrote up the program. I wrote up curriculum, 4 years curriculum based upon my life of realizing we can't assume kids are always going to know all these life lessons. They may never hear these things like showing up is half the battle, respect. They're not hearing those lessons, a lot of kids. But for some kids, they've got good support at home. They're just making bad decisions. They're being goofball teenagers. We just kind of partner with them, with those parents, the guardians, to say, this is great life lessons. This is the way you need to do life. Or maybe it's the first time they've ever heard it. So I started. I pushed a desk in a broom closet. It was actually a book drop room as well, where you have the little flap where people can drop their books down in there. I tried to put a piece of paper over it to say, don't use this book drop. And every once in a while, you'd have a book slide through while you're talking with a kid. It's really funny. Eventually, they retrofitted that little room to make me an office because that first year, they were hoping to have maybe 5 to 10 mentors because it's really hard to start mentoring programs. Well, it took off. And so the first year I had 30 mentors, the second year 45. Then we went up to like 70 mentors. I said, this is too many. I'm having heart palpitations. This is a lot because you're dealing with your most at-risk kids. So now we have a goal of 50 to 60 students meeting with 50 to 60 mentors at each high school. And now we're in 23 high schools. We've grown because it's working. So we want to keep growing. We want to keep impacting lives and communities. So we're continuing to grow.
Your story is very inspirational. We talked to a lot of successful people on this program. And of course, throughout my years, I've talked to many people who have done some amazing things, but people that have a story like yours where they had to overcome all of these obstacles. And we all did to a certain degree, but, some more than others. I think that really shows, whether it's American dream or fate setting out to give you a path. It didn't sound like you planned this in a structured way throughout your life, but you've found your way to be in the right place at the right time to make a huge impact.
Well, here's the thing. When I started with the mentoring program, I started researching a little bit about some other mentoring programs. They just didn't last. And I started asking the question, why? Why did they not last? What was going on with that? Because it's one of the most important things we can do. I just think, wow, what the world would be like if every person had a mentor. I need a mentor. I mean, we need mentors. We need to be doing life together. We're not meant to be on our own. And people that are smarter, older, more experienced, those are the ones that we need to give back. I realized that there were some things that went wrong with some other mentoring programs. One, they got away from being excellent at mentoring. They put a lot of other things into their program that took away from mentoring. Not that those things weren't important, but I believe in the crystal clear focus. We are mentoring. That is what we do. And let's be excellent. And then two, I realized working with kids when I was a youth pastor, a lot of people are very intimidated working with at-risk high school students. It's very intimidating. Gosh, they need you though, because it's triage. Which way are they going? They got a big decision to make in life. And at this moment in their life, gosh, if you can grab them 9th, 10th grade, even if we get them as a senior, we don't care. But to speak life into them and truth into them and then let them make that decision, such an opportunity. I realized mentors are willing. You see in every community, it's just a wonderful group of people in a community that see a problem. They want to give back. They want to do something that can help kids, but they don't know how to connect with these kids. Well, the schools are saying, please help us. We have a population of students that are really struggling. We're trying to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we've got kids throwing backpacks across the room, cussing out the teacher. Those are the kids we want. That's our kids. We want to help those kids who are truly lost. Get them a mentor, equip the mentor. At each of our high schools, we have a full-time coordinator on staff at each high school, and their job is to make sure that mentoring is happening. The mentor just says, yes, I'll be a mentor. I'll show up. Just tell me when, who am I meeting with, equip me with what I need. That coordinator is always making sure that the scheduling is happening. You're going to meet with that same student every week during the school day for 1 hour. All we ask is for 1 hour and just show up. The talking points, we'll have updated grades to hold them accountable, talk about grades a little bit because I got to graduate. But it's more about chipping away at life. What's holding you up? What's keeping you from being successful? Just chip away a little bit at a time. And that's what I see has been so impactful for Mentors Care. It's very intentional. It's very organized. We don't do it halfway. It's not just mentoring thrown in with other programs. It is what we do. And we're going to be excellent at it.
Can you talk to the audience a little bit about what a mentor's role is? I think some people, when they hear that, they think, I can't mentor a student because I haven't figured life out for myself. What is some of the most important things that anybody could bring to the program?
We're just asking you to be a friend. That's it. A lot of it is listening. You'll guide them into a conversation and then listen. None of us are at a place of being perfect. We're all a work in progress every day. And that's good. It's actually a good model for the students to see that you're still growing too. Let's do life together. Let's be a friend, And okay, so you have a really tough discussion with the student. It's really hard. Well, that's why you have that coordinator, Mentors Care coordinator, who works for Mentors Care on staff at the school. When the kids are in school, the coordinator is there. You have a tough conversation. We're not asking you to be a social worker. You're not a doctor. You're not a police officer. You're just bringing that information to the coordinator. We are the ones that are going to get that information into the right hands. We're going to find out, okay, their family is starving. Okay, we have those connections. So we have connections to all the community assistance available that surrounds that community in that school. We're always referring. If they need counseling, we refer. We're not counselors. We're not doctors. We refer. What is holding that kiddo up? So you being a friend, you're finding that out, getting to know them. And you're meeting for 1 hour once a week during the school year when the kids are in school. You never go to their home. They never come to your home. You don't meet outside of school at all. It's all very safe so that there's eyes always on you. There's no accusations. We do the background checks with the mentors. We have referrals for the mentors. We have a training for the mentors to equip them. You have the talking points. We just created a mentor guide. Really excited about that. This is our second year to have it. Dr. Brittany Claiborne helped us write that. And it's not only the do's and don'ts about being a mentor, that kind of thing. It's unpacking. For instance, you had a really bad mentoring session. Say you start talking and the student's being challenging and maybe is digging into something you're insecure about. You're a human and you have ego needs. Well, that really hurt. You said something that really hurt me. I'm a person too. And maybe you didn't handle it well, or you just feel like I didn't reach the student well. They didn't hear what I was saying. That guide is there along with that coordinator on the campus. We're partnering together. We're doing this together. You're not on your own. And be human. That's actually what they need more than anything, is for people to be human with them.
Yeah, I've definitely had my feelings hurt once or twice by my mentee in the last 2 years. And it's okay. We've worked through those things, but
Thank you for being a mentor. I love that. And that you've been in the police department, you've been the chief. You understand probably more than most all the struggles these kids are dealing with. And so that you have compassion and want to give back, that's huge.
yeah, I think that's one of the things that some people don't see because they don't have the background that you have. And you mentioned it when you were talking about some of the things that impacted you growing up the way that you did. And it was one of the things that I already knew, but like when I took the training, that was one of the biggest things that I took out of the training was that some of them don't have anybody showing up for them. They don't have anybody asking them about their homework. I think sometimes they're not doing their homework because nobody cares. Like nobody's checking on them. The teacher's got, 100 kids or whatever throughout the day. Just you being there as an ever-present weekly check-in and just kind of trying to hold them a little bit of accountable and helping them through some of the rough patches and being a sounding board, I think helps more than most people realize.
When I was homeless and a little bit disheveled and just probably looked a little rough, I don't know, I'm thinking I probably did. You would think people would have compassion and have soft eyes and want to know, are you okay? It's actually opposite. I felt very judged, very judged. I could almost hear their words. What did you do to deserve what you've got right here? You did something. I didn't do anything. I didn't have a choice, you know? And that's what happens with a lot of our kids. They start feeling defeated because they feel so judged. Life is so hard. Then they become angry and bitter. What an opportunity to be able to speak to a child that's had that life experience to say, you were created for a purpose. You're supposed to go have a future. You have gifts and talents. Let's go find out what those are. I've seen communities changed because of mentors care. I know that's a bold statement, but I've actually had people tell me that. We had a school board member, a school board president in one of our little towns that we serve, and he was saying, I just want to go on public record to say this program is not only impacting the students, we can already see the impact. This program is impacting our whole community. We're seeing it change, and we are so thankful. So, yeah, James, I mean, we're pretty passionate about growing because it's working. So let's go. Wherever they say, come on, we're going to go because we can duplicate this over and over and over again.
That was one of the things that most attracted me to having it. It does sound good. It does feel good, but you guys have measurable results from your schools where you can show reduction in behavioral problems, maybe attendance and things like that. And I know just my ISD that I'm still mentoring at, they have reported that they have less behavior problems. The program targets the ones that you would have the most problems from. So you're smoothing some of that out. You guys collect stats or something like that to provide school districts, don't you?
Yeah, we do. And so I'm looking at some of these right here. 63% is the number. Among students who have had a history of disciplinary referrals, 63% improved their behavior while in the program.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Which is incredible. We have had 4,583 outcries just last year alone, last school year. That's the kids we're dealing with. And outcries, depression, suicide ideation, abuse, neglect. So we have our state at-risk indicators that we use: impoverished, food insecurities, parents incarcerated, things like that. But then we have our own at-risk indicators for mentors care because there's other reasons kids are at risk. You can have a very wealthy child who's at risk. Suicide ideation, being bullied, suicide attempts. A lot of our students have had a lot of loss of people dying around them. That's a child that's really struggling. We're not counselors. We'll never say that we are, but we're a friend. Out of the students that we served, 808 students last year suffered anxiety, 555 last year basic needs, 239 depression, 207 home instability. We have a population of students that they don't really call them homeless because CPS will say that as long as they have a roof over their head, they're not considered homeless. If you're sleeping on a friend's sofa, you're homeless. I mean, at any moment, that family can say you're out. And then those kids are vulnerable. If they're on the streets, that's where you have the sex trafficking. They're just vulnerable to predators that would take advantage of that. And that's part of my story in my book is that it's almost like it's like a radar. When they know that you do not have a protector, you're on your own, they come after you. It's weird how they know that, but they do. That's what we want to be, is that person in that corner to say, no, you're not going to be taken advantage of. We've had kids that have been approached by the Mexican cartel several times. I mean, hundreds, actually. One story I love, I'll tell a story. This kiddo, I'll never forget this. He graduated from high school and he said, I know you were really nice and I remember talking to you and my mentor and everything, but he said, I was so high, I really don't remember a whole lot. It's like, I didn't know. I had no idea. He did share with us that he had some tattoos. And so he kind of had the look. He was at parties and he was approached by the Mexican cartel to be a runner. One of them was just to run a car to a neighbor town. And they were going to pay him a couple $1,000s or something. And he said, God, it's so much money. It's no big deal. And I said, if you do this, and his mentor too, if you do this, your life is over. It's over. You made a decision. And he didn't do it. Okay, so then he got approached again the next year, still hanging out in that crowd. We're still trying to get him to break away. But anyways, at this party, He's got the look. They approach him again, $12,000 to run to El Paso. Okay. And this was years ago. And he said, "This is so much money." And I said, "All right, you love your girlfriend, right? You want to get married?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." I said, "You want to have kids?" He goes, "I really do." I said, "If you do this, that is not going to happen. You're not going to have a normal family. It's going to be ruined." And I said, "If you'll just trust us, you'll make more money doing it the right way rather than doing it this way, you know?" So he listened to us, I guess. Maybe he was not high at the moment. I don't know. It's funny you told me that. But anyway, he graduated and he went to mechanic school. He did so well that he got a little bit of a grant and went down to Miami for BMW school. And now he works in Dallas for a BMW dealership, making more than my husband does now. Doing great. He married that girl. They've got 3 little boys. He's doing great. What an opportunity to be able to speak that into that young man's life. And we've done that a lot. There's been a lot of that kind of thing.
I always remind people that the police don't always catch people the first time they do something, but keep rolling the dice and eventually your luck's going to run out. You're going to be behind bars, and it's sure not the people like sending you on those runs that are going to jail. It's going to be you.
It's going to be you. Yep.
Dena, we've got many cities that implement their own mentoring programs inside of the city for employee retention and for career development for those employees. You know, whether it's your program or something a city's running, what makes a successful mentoring program?
I think intentionality. It has to be organized. So I've seen a lot of mentoring programs come and go, and they'll say, "Yeah, here's the person, go mentor them." People get busy. They forget. They have good intentions, but they have to have somebody organizing and scheduling that and holding both feet to the fire, both of them. Like, you're going to meet Tuesday at 3:00, and then you're just doing life together. I think mistakes that people make is that they want to preach. I'm guilty of that. My kids will tell you that. Sometimes we just need to listen. That's the most impactful. Let's figure it out together, you know? And it's okay to say, "I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, but let's go figure this out together. Let's go research that." Years past with businesses used to be conferences were all about the bottom line. How do we make our bottom line better? The money and all. There's a real trend right now to understand that it's about retention of great people. And people need to know that they're a part of something bigger than themselves. It's more than just making money. I want to know that I'm really impacting. So, like Mentors Care, we have an incredible team. Everybody feels very called to this. We're doing this together. No one person's more important than the other. And I have somebody I can go talk to. I think it has to be a culture built around relationship. Relationships that each person matters that much that I'm going to be intentional about meeting with them, not just, "It's a good idea. I hope it happens." It's got to be organized and be intentional about that relationship.
And the book launches on what date? And you're going to have a launch party. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, pretty excited about it. Nervous. I'm almost willing to pay people to show up. It goes back to my childhood and rejection and all that, Still working on it, work in progress. Collateral Hope is the name of the book. You can read a little bit more about it on my website, my personal website, which is denapetty.com. The launch is going to be March 12th at Wilson Seafood in Midlothian, Texas. It's a really interesting story how this came about. I got to know the owner, Sean Wilson, of this restaurant, Wilson Seafood in Midlothian. And I knew he was from Louisiana. Well, a lot of my story is on the water and backwaters of Louisiana. That's what the cover of the book is. I actually painted the cover because it's a painting of me as a little girl looking in a reflection and ripples and all that. But the waters are on backwaters of Louisiana because that's a lot of the stories. So we were talking, Sean and I, with my husband and said, I'm going to do this book launch. And he said, his father was one of the cooks at Brennan's in New Orleans. I said, "Really?" I said, "I lived there and my dad was, I think, in the mafia. I don't know." And he said, "That's interesting." And one of the stories is about me seining in Grand Isle. And it's a funny story about sharks. Anyway, he said, "My dad had a camp there." we're talking, and he goes, "Yeah, I knew a lot of those guys. They used to come into the restaurant." And I said, "Did you know?" And I named my dad's name. And he goes, "He was a really good card player, wasn't he?" And I went, "My goodness, you knew my father." So it's a good match, having this launch in his restaurant. He's from, New Orleans area. A lot of the story in the book is around that New Orleans area. He kind of understood my background of what that's like being raised by somebody like that. It's not real nice. I hate the way the movies and all portray it as being just so cool, like those are the cool guys. No, they are not. They are not. It's a horrible life. It's a horrible family life. And it's funny because you look like you have a lot of money on the outside. My dad used to drive around in a big old Cadillac, and he always had a fold-over wad of money because he was always playing cards. The inside of the house was dark, gloomy, and there was nothing in it. And I didn't have clothes. I had to go to work since I was 14 to buy myself some clothes, and it's really bad. Got really off on about the book. Okay, so the book launch is March 12th, and it will be on Amazon. We're just finishing it up, and it'll be on Amazon as well. And Collateral Hope, the name of that is that it's a play on words. It could have been collateral damage, but there was a lot of collateral hope, a lot of good people that came into my life, and some stories of how my life was altered because I started believing in who I was. And married for 39 years, 2 amazing kids, grandmother now, and started Mentors Care. This has been incredible. Thousands of lives touched forever because of a couple of nice ladies in my life.
That's an amazing story. If you're in North Texas and you have not checked out Wilson's Seafood, I have personally gone there. The food's great. And the other cool thing about that is it's on Founders Row. If you don't know Founders Row in Midlothian, they took a lot of I think there were abandoned buildings that very historical in certain towns. And I can't remember where the building Wilson's came from, but it used to be a church, and they still have the pews and things like that. So they found these abandoned buildings across the state, and they bought them up and brought them into one little area. Very pretty area. The food's delicious, and the restaurant's very beautiful on the inside and the outside. Definitely come out and check it out. We'll put all the details in the notes.
Yeah.
What would you want readers to take away from Collateral Hope?
The whole purpose and reason for writing the book. I've been told my whole life, you got to write a book, the crazy stories. It's a short read. I'm not an author. I hope people aren't tortured by it. It's short, easy read. Every story is to paint the picture of the struggles that I had to where I am now, to inspire hope that no matter what's going on in your life, and I know so many people have it so much worse. I know that. But no matter where you are, you can have hope of a future that can be good. But also, maybe you have had that charmed life that is so good and has so much great things going on. And praise God for you that that's your story. That's great. There are so many people in the world starving for someone to notice them. And that's what I want to convey. For instance, if you've got a child that is a boy egging your home, instead of calling the police, get to know him, find out who he is. Why are you egging my home? Just think about what you could do in altering a life if you just got to know that person and what's going on. If you see somebody that's really making some bad mistakes over and over again, or self-harm or hurting others, I truly believe in mentoring enough that those things can be changed and altered. And then I just have to say that ultimately, the whole purpose and reason is because of my relationship with Jesus Christ and how it changed me. And when that happened, it was incredible transformation. I knew that I was loved even before I knew him. That was huge, that he was there all along. And then I'm never going to be alone again, no matter what. There's a lot of comfort in that, knowing, okay, I've been homeless. I've lost everything. I didn't have anything. I remember being hungry. That's one of the reasons we have 2 snacks a day for kids. We have too much money and too many people for anybody to go hungry. But I remember it was scary. I had a can of tuna fish to last me 2 days, and I was scared because I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. I remember that feeling. There's no reason for that. Nobody should ever feel that. Well, anyway, my whole purpose and reason for saying that is to inspire people. If you lost everything, you're going to be fine because of your relationship with Jesus Christ. Deep down knowing that, how can you not serve your neighbor? How can you not want a relationship with others who are struggling and suffering?
I agree. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do. Once you take care of yourself and get your basic needs met, and then some, definitely reach out and help others some way, whether it's mentors care or some other program. Well, if a school district wants to get involved and is not currently, or if there's volunteers or even somebody that may not be inside of your area, what can they do to be involved and help you guys?
So glad you asked that question. We're always needing mentors. Our goal is to have 50 to 60 at each of our high schools. Our numbers have come down a little bit this year. I don't know what that is. So we need more mentors. I would say almost all the schools, because you'll have somebody that has moved, changed jobs, life changes, and they can't mentor again. So we're always needing new mentors coming into a community that we already serve. Then, yes, we want to continue growing. I feel like it doesn't matter what school district, every school district needs mentors care, because there are at-risk kids for a lot of different reasons and can benefit from mentors care. They can go to our website, www.mentors.care. It's mentors with an S, .care. And there'll be a link on there that you can say, would love to talk to you about our school district, would love to mentor if you're in one of the areas where we already serve. We are adding Granbury. That's going to be one of our new schools next year. So we're definitely going to need some people in Granbury. We are talking to some schools out in the Abilene area. We are in Wiley High School in Abilene. Would love to be in the Abilene high schools. That hasn't happened yet, but there's some surrounding small communities that are interested in our program. So we'll be out that way more than likely. Arlington ISD has shown interest as well. So we would love to be able to continue those talks with them. We have proven statistics showing that it's not just the stories of lives being changed forever, it's also the numbers. And one of the other things that we're creating right now is a community impact report. Very excited about this. And James, you'll appreciate this. There's been a monetary value of mentors care for the schools. If a student is not dropping out, the school saves money. If the schools are showing up because of attendance, which is like $40 a day or something on average, if the student is there, and I want to say student attendance improved, I think 70% across the board if they've been in our program, which is incredible. So the schools are saving money that way. And then disciplinary, we've already talked about that. But for the community, there is an impact because the student, if they're graduating, then they're not going to be on the streets, roaming the streets, causing trouble, being a burden to the police departments, the judicial system. So there's an impact there. And if they get a high school diploma and they go on to a secondary post-school situation, they're getting highly educated so they can be skilled to serve their community. And then they're going to be paying taxes that are going to go back into the community. So there's so many benefits to having a mentor. And one of the things that we've also just implemented in the last couple of years is pathways. So if you have a student say they absolutely have to go to work after high school, they just have to work, or they're not interested in going to school anymore, they just want to go to work. We have businesses and we're interested in learning some more. If anybody's interested in talking to us, there are businesses that say, we would love to train them. Instead of retraining somebody, we would love to train a student entry level out of high school, a skill, and they can have a career for a lifetime. We have several businesses that do that with our kids, and it's been really successful. There's a lot of benefits to mentors care across the board, not just for the school districts, but the community as a whole.
Well, thank you. I don't think my mentee listens to the podcast, but just in case he Googles me and finds it, I would like to say you're doing a great job. Keep it up. You're smart enough to do this. And let's get through the last 2 years of high school, please.
Finish strong. Come on, you can do it.
He definitely can. He's very much like me. I think my coordinator picked him just to torture me.
We actually are pretty good at that we find like-minded or similar backgrounds, or I don't know. It's incredible. And then the bond is there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nicole's my coordinator and she did a wonderful job, although it's tested my patience a couple of times this year.
It means you care, and that's awesome.
Yes, I definitely do. Dena, before we close, is there anything that we haven't covered that you feel is important? Or if not, can you leave our listeners with a final thought about investing in others?
I think if everybody had a mentor, the whole world would be different. I think everybody can give an hour once a week intentionally being a mentor. Please reach out to us if you have a school district that would be interested in our being in your high school. Have the superintendent, the principal, school board member reach out to us. We would love to talk with them. If you think you cannot be a mentor, that you won't be skilled enough or it's too intimidating, you have a coordinator that's going to be right there with you and helping you all the way. They just need a friend. Some of the most amazing mentors I've ever met are the most timid people that were very nervous, but then they just break down those walls and they realize this is just doing life together. I am selfishly saying this because I know there's so many other great programs. I know that. I think this is the most important thing we can do. And so we're all very, very passionate that we're going to continue growing and continue serving the schools that we're in with excellence and loving people. That's the bottom line.
Dena, thank you for sharing a little bit about your past, and we look forward to the book coming out. You won't be alone unless something crazy happens. I plan on being at Wilson's for the book launch.
Thank you, James.
If you're a city leader, a school official, or someone who feels called to invest in the next generation, I would definitely encourage you to check out Mentors Cares on their website. They can provide you the information that you need about why this program should be in your school and in your community. Thank you for listening. Please follow the podcast and Clear Career Professionals to keep up with our latest career opportunities, and we will catch you next time.